A very good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you present here and to our audience who have joined us virtually. We look forward to giving you a seamless experience with a packed day of learning and networking. I'd like to introduce myself to you. My name is Justin Jacob, and I'll be your host for this event. We hope that you attended our session on the 28th of June, and in case you missed the event, all the session recordings are on the platform. Please do visit and listen in to some insightful discussions. Our sessions today will discuss the playbook for GCCs to be future ready. Some of the key topics that will be discussed include building competitive advantage with purpose, customer centricity and data, strategic direction for the road ahead, and some of the big themes emerging globally which will affect businesses. Before we begin our event, a few quick announcements for you to give you all a seamless experience. All of you are requested to keep your mobile phones on the silent mode. Please do visit our booth situated right outside the hall during the networking breaks. Throughout the day, 12 hand-picked startups will be pitching live about the solutions that they have developed for BFSI and retail sectors using artificial intelligence. This is a good opportunity, needless to say, for you to collaborate with these startups, identify innovation, what fits your organization's goal. We encourage you to also visit the meeting rooms, number 3 and 4, number 3 between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m., and number 4 between 2 and 5 p.m. You will also be approached by someone on behalf of the NASSCOM team. Fill in your feedback forms. Please do take a minute to fill the same. For all of you joining us virtually, we request all the attendees to be on mute at all times. You may post your questions in the Q&A section while addressing it to a particular speaker. We invite you all to check out our virtual booths and witness a unique showcase put up by our partners. Please do take a minute to fill in the feedback forms, like I mentioned already, which has been pinned on the chat window and also in the lobby area. We'd love to hear from you and your experiences, learning, and on how we can improve and bring a better experience to you. Before we move any further, big shout out to our sponsors. We'd like to thank our state partner, Government of Telangana, our strategic partner, Everest Group, our knowledge partner, IBM, our innovation partner, Kyndryl, our platinum sponsors, Deloitte, Fiserv, Grant Thornton, HSBC, Legato Health Technologies, MetLife, Sabre, and Target, our process mining partner, Celonis, our low-code partner, OutSystems, our gold sponsors, Karnataka Government, AB InBev, Novartis, Pure Storage, Sony, our badge and lanyard partner, Swiss Re, and our silver sponsors, Amadeus. We'd also like to thank Zadl, our platform partner, and ACT, our internet partner. A big thank you to all our partners for their continued support. We move into our first session, a leaders' discussion, where our speakers will deliberate on how can GCCs reinvent today to rebuild for future relevance. Our speakers for this session are Gunjan Samtani, partner and head at Goldman Sachs Services India. Gunjan has been credited with growing the Bengaluru Center into Goldman Sachs' second largest office after New York, with over 6,000 employees working across all the businesses of the financial institution. Joining us is also Manu Saale, Managing Director and CEO at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India. Manu leads the largest R&D setup for Mercedes-Benz Group AG outside Germany. Manu has more than 26 years of experience in the automotive innovation and engineering sector. Also joining us is Debjani Ghosh, President NASSCOM, and facilitating this session will be KS Vishwanathan, Vice President, Initiatives NASSCOM. So without further ado, I'd like to invite KSV onto the stage.
Boss, very small clap here. Big applause for me, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, about 11 years back, when we were starting this NASSCOM, GCC Conclave, etc., that time, there was the way all of you were described in 2010 was captives. Captives, and many of you were setting the operation were feeling umbraged that why are we being captive, you're doing much more, etc. The leaders then, over a period of time, did a sustained effort, supported by NASSCOM, to bring the change from being a captive-oriented, offshoring-oriented organization to completely different. We went through multiple terminologies. Today, the GCCs have evolved to be the mainstay of the Indian tech success story. It has happened all these years. Thanks to all your efforts, not only India posted a very good exports revenue for the last year, as a GCC community, together we have added close to about 1,500 GCCs in the country over the period of last 20 years, employing close to about 1.4 million people and exporting about $35 billion worth of revenue. All of them wouldn't have happened but for the great work all of you have done. As I speak to you, on an average, close about 1.5 to 2 GCCs get established in India every week. Every week, an average of 75 to 100 get established in India. That's the spirit all of you have created. Everything is going fine. Why upset the rock? Why upset the ship? Let's just go continue forward. It is in that context we said we will discuss today, are we leveraging all the opportunities that the GCC model is providing to us? Are we setting ourselves to be a bit more ambitious, bit more aspirational to leverage the opportunity that is on our way to be taken across forward on that? There are people who are continuing to do more of same things much effectively, efficiently in each year as they go forward. There are few who are doing different things every year differently, something is unheard of, what needs to be done. There are several of you who are doing both combinations effectively. But the data shows the following. We did a survey of close about 450 to 500 GCCs last year. Approximately about 32% of you do manage portfolio segment over a period of maturity scale of length of time versus maturity, but 32% of them are emerging yourself as a portfolio hub. Fairly large percentage of the view are still struggling to get the portfolio hubs or sub-portfolio hub stage. Less than 5% of you are in the transformational aspirational hub. So we want entire curve of Indian GCC to move from the 32% which is currently there into put across. The conversation what we're going to have now, so how do we move up the conversation? How do we move the opportunities available? To help me decode and understand this process, we have Debjani Ghosh, President NASSCOM. We seems to have exploited many things which is available today, and yet there's a feeling that a lot more could be done. Maybe perhaps you could start with your perspective, Debjani, as you've been speaking to several global leaders and also your president as a GAC leader yourself. What is the opportunity that is yet to be tapped? What else could be done? The audience we have close about 500 people representing multiple segments, and your answers could be the starting point of the question what we are answers we are searching for. Over to you, Debjani.
Thank you very much, Kesri and Manu. Hi, Gunjan. Thanks a ton for joining us today, and good morning to everyone. And I'm apologize that we could not be there in person. Primarily my fault. I was down a bit, but really looking forward to this conversation. And Puneet has been sending me lovely pictures of what's going on in ground, and I have to say I'm really missing out on all the fun. So I hope you guys have a wonderful conference. Kesri, going back to your point about what's the opportunity, I think Manu and Gunjan are best placed to answer it, but I'll give you a very quick perspective. I think the opportunity, or the missed opportunity, is our ability to reimagine what can be the impact of GCCs in India. I'll give you an example. Last few weeks, actually over last month, I've been meeting a lot of global CEOs or global boards who've been coming to India to understand India better. And the question they are asking is not, can we move up the value chain and drive end-to-end product design from India? Because that is what I hear on ground as what the aspiration is, that we want to drive end-to-end product design and development. But the CEOs, the boards, are actually a step ahead. They are saying that given the importance of R&D, of engineering for the company's success, and given the role that India is now playing in shaping the R&D charter for companies, India or our business in India, our teams in India, they're pretty much shaping the business strategy. They're pretty much shaping where the company will go, what it will look like, what kind of products it's going to come out with. So as a result, this is the future. And this is also the future of the company's leadership. If you have a seat at the table and you are shaping the strategy of the company to such an extent, then you have a leadership voice, and you should be. And so many of the CEOs are telling me that, we have to start looking at India as a pool for future CEOs, for future leadership talent. And I think that's the aspiration that I would love to see in the GCC community. It's not just about moving up the value chain. It's not just about how much more of the product design cycle can I drive from India. But I think we have to now reimagine our aspirations to start thinking about, how do I shape the strategic imperatives of my company? How do I build the future? How do I, pretty much redesign the future for our company? And that's a big ask. That's a big aspiration. But I think that, to me, is the biggest opportunity ahead. And we're talking about big goals or big dreams. Manu, what you are doing with Mercedes in India is sort of, what I see as the poster child for really putting the stake out there in terms of how big you can dream and how well you can deliver on those big dreams. So I'll pass the baton to you to talk a little bit about how you are reimagining your aspirations completely and how well it's working.
Yeah, thanks, Debjani. Good morning. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I think it's the first audio check we're having. Great, thanks. And most importantly, good morning to Hyderabad. I also miss being physically there, present at the event. Would have been really fun to be in that city. And hopefully business brings me there too soon. Yeah, thanks for setting the context, KSV and Debjani. I think, the team here in Bangalore and an office in Pune, more than anything, are charged up by two things. One is the brand that we work for, and second, that we're contributing the brand from India, right? The rhetoric of simply putting the best of engineering out from India is actually driving a lot of innovation. And I hope to convey in the next minutes as well how important that rhetoric is for teams around us in the GCCs, right? KSV started this by saying or using the word captive at the beginning, which kind of was haunting the industry for a really long time. And it takes quite a bit within the company to break that shackles, actually, right? Simply to get out of that mindset and to find your own way. I meet a lot of GCCs that come either in the midst of their journey, people who want to set up shop in India, who come in often to talk. NASSCOM sends a lot of delegates. Sadly, there are also people who come and meet us just before they exit the country, right? Really a pity. And I see a pattern in all of that. I think this whole thing is about what you just said. It's about building a new narrative. It's about breaking the shackles. It's about not thinking oneself as a captive and moving just beyond that value add discussion to something totally different. That's the story that we have weaved in the last more than a decade out of India for ourselves. We couldn't imagine that a brand like Mercedes, by the way, India is still not a market for our products. It's a very, very small market. Despite that, to be able to imagine markets out of the country, on the world, around the world, and to be able to engineer those products out of here, that's been our story. And I hope in the next questions or minutes, I'm able to kind of go a little bit deeper into how we weave that story for ourselves out of India, starting from 150 people 11 years ago to end this year with 11,000 people engineering the Mercedes out of India. We are extremely happy to have reached where we have reached right now.
It's been a fascinating journey to see what you have done, Manu, and kudos to you for that. Gunjan, there's another part to this narrative about aspirations, right? While one aspiration is the value we add back to the mothership, the other aspiration, or I think opportunity, is the value we add to India, which I think a lot of GCCs frankly underestimate. It's we are just here, we are operating for our, but I just feel the sector is doing so much for India. So over to you as you talk about what you think are the opportunities out there. It'll be great if you can also talk a little bit about why India. It's not just why you care for India, but why India cares for this sector so much.
Certainly. Thanks, Debjani. Before I go further, I just wanted to take a check if you can hear me well and if I'm audible. Thanks KSP and Debjani for setting the context, and it's a pleasure to get this opportunity to address my fellow colleagues from the GCC and other companies that represent NASSCOM in our country. Going to the topic about captive. I mean, it's such a red flag that comes to my mind every time I hear that word, and that word is sometimes not just mentioned here, but also by many visitors who come to our country, and it has a very deeply rooted colonial lineage. And the more we move away and establish our global competency centers with a sense of identity and a sense of purpose to what our collective talent is contributing to the success of the organization, the more equitable environment we will be able to provide to many individuals and thousands or hundreds of thousands of our countrymen who are contributing towards the strategic imperatives, as you called out, Debjani, for the organizations. In our firm, the identity for our offices stands as the deepest fintech hubs of Goldman Sachs, that we truly operate front to back across all of our businesses, and we have a materially important role in shaping up the strategic businesses of the firm that are digital-led first. An example of that is transaction banking, a new business that we launched for the treasurers of the world, and providing the corporates first-class treasury services operations with a digital-led interface first. The same is the case with our new consumer bank, Marcus, where we don't have any branch offices, we don't have any ATMs, yet we now have over $100 billion of deposits from clients across UK and US, because it's a digital-led consumer business first. A significant portion of the product managers, a significant portion of the risk managers, the engineers, the people who are defining the business are anchored out of our offices, both in Bangalore and in Hyderabad. But to your point about what is it that we contribute to India, and in many ways, the framing of the opportunity statement for our country in the macro of what the world is pivoting to in the next decade or so, I took the liberty of putting a few slides to share with my fellow colleagues on what is the framing of that opportunity across the different sectors. So, Casey, if you don't mind just putting it up on the screen there. All right. Because so much of the work that we collectively do, and NASSCOM, led by Debjani and our colleagues in KSV and others, is so much around digital and around internet. I think it's important for us to understand what is the growth that has happened in the context of internet-led economy, the adoption of internet, the consumption as well as the production of data that is coming in. And the reason why I want to say so is because that is a generational opportunity for our country. But how we keep our people, our companies, our business processes, and our mother companies secured in this widely distributed infrastructure and internet is going to be critical for the future success. So today we have about 2.7 billion people in Asia that are online, and we make up about 53% of the global internet population. In India, we have about 650 million people. That will grow to about 900 million people by 2025. And while we are generating about 79 trillion GB of data, it's only going to have a nonlinear parabolic curve as we go across in creating data in the next few years. If you move to the next slide, I think that next slide, just indulge with me. On the left-hand side is the positioning of the biggest economies in the world tied to their GDP. So India today is about $3.6 trillion GDP, and we are pegged to go to about 6.8, 6.9 trillion GDP in 2031. This is based on Goldman's internal research. We will, at that time, become the third largest economy in the world and becoming a greater than $10 trillion economy by 2036. A significant portion on the contribution of that economy is going to come from businesses that will be disrupted via technology, not alone via big techs or not alone via deep tech companies, but every sector that we can put our hands around that has the opportunity to disrupt and to provide services and products to a country with a large demographic like ours. On the right-hand side is the growth of the GDP of our country. And in spite of the economic headwinds that the developed markets are going through, if you look at the line in yellow, that line in yellow is the growth of India's GDP over the course of the next few years. And we will be, and we will continue to be the fastest growing economy across not just the emerging markets, but across the world. And that yellow line is in many ways the projection of the growth of India's GDP. If you go to the next slide, this is an important one because that is in many ways the framing for all of us, which is what are some of the most important macro emerging trends that are transforming the world, in which we operate in, working for our parent organizations, working for our colleagues across the world, for our clients, but also to what Debjani mentioned, the imperatives that are so critical for our own country, for our own people, and the contributions that our work here will contribute to these macro trends. Be it the adoption of blockchain and becoming about $225, $228 billion economy by 2028, or IoT. We will have 3 times more IoT devices in the next few years versus where we are right now. The same applies to quantum computing and the growth in quantum computing, which is projected to grow 43% on a CAGR basis, compounded annual growth rate. And while there is only a mention of NLP, but you can extrapolate it in the context of AI, ML applications in a range of different economies and a range of different sectors. Just NLP is sized up to $43 billion in 2025. Now, peg that against the contribution that we GCCs are collectively making, which is 1% of India's GDP, about 35 billion-ish on an annualized basis. So the opportunity to lift the lid, the opportunity to lift the awareness of what we can collectively contribute to the economy, not just for the organizations that we work for, but in our collective contribution to our country with the talent that we have and with the awareness and the context in which you're operating in, is massive. And if I may just close with one last slide, and that is, I think, a statement, if you just move to the next slide, KSV, this is in some ways our North Star. And our North Star is less to be measured in billions. It is in hundreds of trillions, tens of trillions of dollars of opportunity in the next couple of decades that will shape the world, that will see an infusion in the capital market activities to the most important imperatives, certainly of our generation and next. Be it ESG, which will see an infusion of about $100 to $150 trillion coming in the next 3 decades, or Web 3.0, which will see an economy exploding to about $8 trillion in the next decade, and the contributions that we continue to have an opportunity to make in fintech, in edtech, in health tech, in deep tech. The list just goes on. And therefore, what we do in working with the universities, what is it that we do in grooming our people with that boldness, with that awareness, is in many ways going to be the unlocking factor for many of us. And in perhaps to conclude it, that's the bold vision that is in many ways needed in the seats that we are in to unlock that opportunity. I know I took a long answer to the question that you asked, Debjani, but the framing was essential to lift the lid on that thinking.
Yep.
If I actually may add something to that last slide, and especially for our audience, that slide's coming from Goldman. I'm sitting here in an auto company because exactly those keywords are moving the auto industry as well, right? ESG is moving the auto industry. Health is moving the auto industry. Deep tech is moving the auto industry. And for all you know in the audience, if you have people from any other space as well, they'd be probably toying with the same keyword. So there's actually a melting pot of technologies that India is providing, I think, which is another part of answer, if I may extend what Gunjan just mentioned.
Absolutely, and I think the lines are blurring between the auto industry and the health industry and the entertainment industry, and very soon we have to figure out new terminologies, frankly, because I think the silos are not going to work anymore. Given that we are pretty much creating solutions that provides end-to-end convenience and benefits to the user. Nobody wants to be left out. So, no, it's a fantastic journey, and both of you, thank you for sharing your perspectives. Kesvi, I hope that answers your question in terms of what is the opportunity that we see in terms of both contributing to the charter of the mothership companies and also contributing to the India development story. Back to you, Kesvi.
Okay. In the meantime, any questions the audience has asked on the earlier thing? Essentially, what they're saying is there's a huge opportunity to be unearthed, whether in terms of future technology that is coming in, future opportunity in terms of ESG and other aspects that's coming in. It also requires, we need to scale, I wouldn't say scale down, let go perhaps our behavior, our attitude, our anything that's required to garner the larger opportunities available outside. That's the message we're hearing outside. Let's see if the sound system gets up to try it out. Debjani, the second question to ask is, for us to achieve that bigness of thing, what the leaders have put across, what are some of the adjustments, perhaps not incremental, exponential changes that is required at the GCC's end to achieve that goal that we have had? That will be the second theme for you to explore.
Yep, thanks, Keshvi. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to carry the conversation forward with Gunjan and Manu so that we don't get into this technical difficulties again. What is it that needs to change, I guess? Manu and Gunjan, the more I think about it, the answer is just one thing in my mind, which is the leadership mindset of this sector. Honestly, while we have seen tremendous evolution in the leadership mindset, but I still don't think we project ourselves in a way that is needed. If our CEOs are saying that this is not just the future of the company, but this is where our future leaders, global leaders, are going to come from, I'm not sure that we today as a community are giving that confidence and projecting that back. And I think that is the one thing that needs to change, but would love to hear more from you guys. And what do you think? I'll start with you, Manu.
No, can't agree more on that leadership topic. Actually, we've been referring to that quite a lot, and we've been noticing, how leadership can make a difference. We call this topic as GCC narrative. I think the keyword narrative holds a lot of things. I mean, at the end, life's a story, business is story. And I think leaders have the task at GCCs to look for a North Star, kind of derive the purpose statement for their local enterprise, place that North Star firmly in the global agenda, and then simply try and follow it up, right? During the first part of my response, I said I do meet a lot of people who sadly want to leave the country, right? They've set up a GCC, it's not working. They come down to us, we have a big chat, and I literally give them, if you want to call it our magic formula, right? They come in from the same sector, sometimes from other sectors. Honestly, India has the same thing to offer to all of us. To Gunjan, to me, it's talent, it's the cost advantage, it's this young population, it's the passion, it's the deep technology, all of that. How you put together that story under your roof, for your counterpart, for your headquarters, in your work culture, that is making the difference right now to an American company, to a British company, to a German company in this case, or a French story, whatever else that we want to see. And I think that is something that I certainly want as part of NASSCOM ER&D, our leaders to actually go back and analyze a little bit. What is their story? What's their North Star? How are they placing it firmly in headquarters? And how are they putting together the equation in India towards that purpose? I think this is going to make a huge difference. This is what we work on constantly, right? I'll keep it short. I'll hand it over to Gunjan because of time.
Yeah, thanks, Manu. I think you both captured the essence of lifting the lid for the organization through the expression that the leader provides and the boldness of that vision Debjani, you mentioned that KTR is there. I want to give an example, highlighting one of the things that we did during the pandemic with a lot of support coming from KTR, Jayesh, and their team. We were while in lockdown in the country, we had the vision and the boldness that we are going to open up a new office in Hyderabad and expand the remit of what our collective talent can provide to the firm in a global scale, because it wasn't about what is happening in 2020 or 2021. It was much more about a generational investment that we are making in the talent of the country. And the support we got from the industry bodies, the support we got from the government, that is also very unique here, which is we have harmonic ambitions. We are bound by common purpose, and therefore the ability to create that multiplicative quotient is very high. Now, when we were establishing Hyderabad office, of course, it is an extension to the work that we have been doing in the country for the last many years, but we wanted to give it a distinct identity. And in the distinct identity, we said it will be the center of excellence for consumer banking, the biggest and the most important new business of Goldman Sachs that we are launching in the world. And because there is so much that is happening in blockchain and DeFi, the global center of excellence for blockchain and decentralized finance for Goldman Sachs is based out of Hyderabad. And that in many ways is the identity that we have wrapped around our offices. One can say, well, it's about the identity, but it is so much about the identity. It is what gives people an equitable environment to work in on an every single day, but also allows for recognition and for reward where location is not a binding constraint on the aspirations of people.
Brilliantly said, both of you. And I think the message is, let's not get complacent with what we have achieved. Yes, the GCC story is tremendously successful. It has shaped up beautifully, but there is just so much more to be done. I honestly believe we've touched barely the tip of the iceberg. And I guess if this conversation makes anyone in the audience a little uncomfortable in terms of thinking through what am I doing today, then I think the three of us have achieved the job, and it's 30 minutes well spent. And Gunjan, you talked about Hyderabad, and I have to say that no one demonstrates that power of thinking big ambition, big goal, and then going and making it happen, then the way Telangana does it. And I guess that's why it's sort of become a magnet for the industry today. And KDR Garu, all I'll say is maybe one of these days you need to take a one-on-one workshop for the industry and for the leadership team to say, this is how you project global leadership to the world. But fantastic talking to both of you. And once again, to the audience, we strongly believe that the best for the GCC community is ahead of us. It's not what we have done. It's not where we are today. What we have done and where we are today is all good, but there is just so much more to do. And status quo is not going to cut it. We have to rethink our strategies. We have to rethink the role that we play, both for the headquarters as well as for India. And we have to be very confident about the value that we are creating for both. We cannot undermine that. We cannot undersell that, because when you are creating value, you have to be loud and proud about it. The world is looking at India as not just an excellent hub for talent and innovation, but the world is looking at India as an excellent hub for future global leaders that will shape the charter of the technology industry. And I think we just have to own it. We have to own it, and we have to deliver on it. So thank you, Gunjan. Thank you, Manu, for this conversation. I hope it gives you some food for thought. And with that, back to you, KSV.